This workflow hasn't changed. The input of the data, the imagery, the LiDAR, any sort of orientation information. Software then goes through the data prep, which is converting the images or the LiDAR into the PhotoMesh formats and bring them into the software, the project. And the aerial triangulation correlates the type points and all the matches between images that have overlap, performs a full bundle adjustment, as well as the measurement of ground control points or reference from existing data sets such as LiDAR or background ortho, DSM, 3D. So they're all able to be integrated as part of the ground control point. 3D reconstruction has three main steps, which are creating the dense point cloud correlation, the mesh geometric surface, creating the surface from the points, and then texturing that surface. Now for the QA/QC, the integral part is that the process that is now built into the software is once the automated output is out, you can create a water polygon, which any area that has water, they want to have cleaned up into a more level surface. Then you can reprocess selected tiles with alternative settings or different presets, and then do the manual retouch tool, which I'll go over in the next part of the demo. And you can also export or import files that need external retouch if necessary, and then bring them back in, produce the final outputs. All of the 3D mesh, the point clouds, the ortho, the DSM, and the DT. So for the QA tools, some of which I covered a little bit, everything is now comes in an item list. And there's different selection tools, as well as changing tile status, the ability to tag tiles or add comments, as well as sort or filter based on what is required, let's say for a water polygon rebuilding or retouch, or just somebody confirming they approved the area and it is okay for them to fill out. So for the manual retouch tool, which is a very big enhancement in this current version, there's an ability to, first of all, clean any sort of vertical surfaces. So like you're seeing here, buildings that have reflective surfaces that came out noisy or that just don't have a perfectly smooth side, you can draw the profile of the roof edge and then clean up the buildings and create a much smoother facade. This can also be applied to walls or fences. It can also clean horizontal surfaces or slope surfaces such as rooftops or roads, any areas that might have some noise or some bumps due to moving cars, or just something that wants to be flattened out. And you can also remove floating noise and data sets that have floating power lines or just trees that you don't want to have included in the data set, certain noise that is not a part of the final measurement requirement. So this is what the manual retouch toolbox looks like. You can select areas and you can colorize them to see which part of them is going to be affected or smoothed out, like semi-reconstructed cars on the road. You can also flatten buildings or clean wires like I reviewed. And the one thing to be aware of is that there is a multi-user editing capability. So when you have the final 3DML output of PhotoMesh, you can edit it with multiple users accessing data and providing their own edits and cleanup. At the end, you can import it all back into PhotoMesh to perform the reconstruction with the corrections, with the edits. You can also export it, import it, and then use it in future collections. Buildings that are reflective or noisy will tend to cause issues in most data sets, regardless of how they're collected. Now to look at the manual retouch tool, there's a retouch button here, and you can open the manual retouch toolbox. These are the polygons that were just drawn here as some examples and ways to demonstrate what the tools do. So a flattened polygon, for example, if you want to clean up a rooftop, any sort of roof line, and there's also hotkeys which are underlined, the letter that is underlined. So if I press F, it'll load the flattened polygon. If I press P, it'll load the flattened profile. So now I can either use the snapping tool or just draw the area in the roof that I'm interested in cleaning up. In this case, the roof is relatively clean, so there isn't too much to do, but you see it draws this polygon. You can press S or just hit select. Then select the polygon. You can edit how much of the above or below of the data gets affected. And the volume polygon will show you the area that is being affected either above or below. So to give you an example, say over here on the roof line, there was a little bit of noise. So we can see I drew a flattened polygon on these two sides of the roof, and these are the areas that are being affected. And here I just put a small remove floating component to clean up this little patch. And we can look at the result and how it cleaned up the roof. Turn off the manual retouch tool. You can see a much cleaner roof line. Everything is much smoother. It was also applied over here. You can see the little noise over here on this roof line, which was perfectly cleaned out. Okay, the flattened profile tool is for cleaning facade. So just draw a sample one over here on this facade to demonstrate. The way that it works is you click on one corner of the roof or the area of the facade that you want to clean, let's say over here, and then you click on the other side of the roof, let's say from here to here, and then you can edit the line if it all looks okay and it's well digitized. Here's where you can edit it. You can move it up or down. You can see the plumb line or move it a little bit X and Y. When you're happy with it, you can close the edit polygon box. Then you click on the ground of where you want to see the roof line extruded down to the ground. See, it produces this polygon similar to the one we saw on the roof, but now it's a vertical one, perfectly vertical one. Then it will clean up this roof facade or this building facade. To look at an example of how this was applied, over here, there was an area where the vegetation was getting, for this example, very close to the building and essentially touching it. And I drew up one of the polygons, see over here, and then once it was applied, see over here how it cleaned up the surface. Turn off the polygon. And it exposed the building, even though the texture might not be perfect, but you can see the geometry brings now the building facade all the way down to the ground in this area. So that's part of how the manual retouch tool is applied. We'll go into another example, slightly more interesting area. Now, you can see over here after the cleanup and the polygons that were drawn over here. Let's look at the original 3DML. So you see over here, these buildings are very close together. They're also reflective, and the coverage might not be ideal to get the completely clean facade on both sides. So the flattened profile was applied, one over here on this side and one over here on this side. And it doesn't have to go all the way to where the noise, basically just far enough from the edge to cover noise that might come up and create a clean surface. You can see after it was applied, the facades and of the polygons, you can see clean output on both sides of the building. You can see over here another example where these buildings are extremely close and extremely tall. This area in the middle doesn't have a lot of coverage from different angles. So this was also had a manual retouch polygon applied on both sides. And you can see the difference between the original 3D, which had these two buildings glued together. And then once the manual retouch was applied, it exposes data over here also in the street level. You see the street signs, and the two sides of the buildings are very clean.
So let's take this area here, and I have a power line that I want to clean. I don't know if you see it here, and I have some over here, some ghosted or partially built vehicles. So I select the manual retouch. I get the toolbox. Let me just open to see what you see. Okay. Now to flatten, let's start with the vehicles. To flatten or clean these vehicles here, it's very intuitive and simple. It takes, after you master the tool, it takes few seconds. Actually, what takes time is to find the artifacts. Cleaning them is very fast. You click on Flatten Polygon, you just draw a polygon, and now if I select this polygon, I can define the altitude to make sure I have a few display modes. You see this, that all the vehicles are actually colorized in red, and it means that it will clean everything and create a polygon on this surface. That's it, nothing more, nothing less. If I want to clean this wire, I select the Remove Wire tool. I click here, here, and here, and that's it. It's all red, almost. I should have clicked here at the edge, but everything is ready. And now when you click on the build, you see that it's actually a 3D polygons. Now if I click on build, if I remove the 3D ML and I click build and another build, one second, you see that PhotoMesh automatically identify this manual retouch polygon and automatically downgrade this style to after point cloud before modeling. Let's look at some manual retouch results. So that's the same project. I have the same, I don't know if you see, I'll just zoom in. You see these red and yellow polygons or 3D polygons. This is the manual retouch layer that I exported from PhotoMesh and imported to 34 Plus or 34 Pro. I have a new tool here called manual retouch, and actually I can do the same editing over here. Okay, and let's look at some examples. This is you see some ghosted vehicles. I'll open the swipe tool to compare the before and after. So this is the before. Move it here. I'll remove the layer just so you see the model. And this is the before, and this is the after. The road is clean and flat. Let's go to the before, jump to another. So this is a problem of a very narrow alley, and PhotoMesh didn't have enough overlap to understand the geometry of the gap between these two buildings. That's a common problem if you have a very, close by or nearby buildings. And adding the manual retouch object, in this case I added two, one for the right building and another one for the left building, and I'll turn it off, and that's again the before, and that's the after, and you see that the alley is very sharp, very clean. And let's go to another example here. The rooftop, that's the before. Actually here, I'll just rotate. 1 second. So we have two problems here. First of all, I have an all-white rooftop that again may cause the normal PhotoMesh reconstruction algorithm some hard time. And you do see, I don't know if you can see, but over here you can see some artifacts. And also I have some holes over the fence covering the AC units. So in this case, I added one polygon over the rooftop, and I used the profile tool to mark the fence over here. I'll turn it off, swipe to the after, and you see that the fence geometry is now solid and the roof is clean. Last one is wires. This is the before. I will zoom in. This is the retouch polygons. You do not need to generate each one. You just use the wire tool, and with multiple clicks, you automatically generate multiple ones. And the after the wire are removed.